Okay, welcome to episode 2 of Things You Didn't Ask For and Didn't Need to Know. And today we'll be talking about ChatGPT and possibly other ChatGPT related stuff we will discover throughout the program. Barry, introduce yourself for a second.
I'm Barry.
And Mart.
And I'm Donald. So, Barry, what did you have to talk about first?
So random topics, I suppose. One story I found this week, and I thought it was fascinating, and it is technology related, but it's not ChatGPT related. So basically, in 1971, there was a lady in America that was murdered. She was a 24-year-old school teacher, and they never caught anyone until recently, where a cigarette butt that was found on the scene, they were able to recently extract viable DNA from it, and they were able to say, the murderer was this guy.
Wait, so they kept the DNA for the last...
They'd obviously...
From the 70s until now?
They'd obviously put it in one of those Ziploc zippy bags or whatever they use for evidence, and it was in a locker or something. They took it out, and some company was able to extract DNA from it, from the cigarette. Now, the person that they matched the DNA to had died of an overdose in 1986, but they were able to say that this was definitely his cigarette. Now, I was fascinated by the fact that 50-odd-year-old cigarette butt, that they were able to get DNA from it.
Yeah,
but I was also thinking, like, that's kind of circumstantial, man. It's a cigarette butt from 1979 when everybody was freaking smoking, like, and the guy lived in her apartment building, had a fight with his wife, his partner, and had left to cool down. And then this lady, the same evening, was beaten to death. But they found the cigarette. Now, I'm assuming they must have found the cigarette in her apartment or on her bed or somewhere really, really close by, because anywhere else it's like, this is anybody's, could be, so it's very much bad. But more fascinating was the fact that they were able to get viable DNA from a 50-year-old cigarette and match it up to someone.
Yeah.
That's to me, that's amazing. Like, that's absolutely amazing.
But I was going to say, even just what you were saying there reminded me of a story, and I think I might be mixing it up with something else as well. But
Brilliant.
I know for a fact this happened, and I think it's to do with the Zodiac killer, that they finally figured out who he was based on they had finally, they had evidence back in the 70s or whatever, when it was just like, get all this stuff and put it in a shelf and leave it there for 50 years. But then, decades later, some random girl just went on one of these kind of, give a sample of your DNA to this lab and they'll do a test and give you your family tree kind of thing.
Oh yeah, Ancestry.com.
Ancestry.com type thing. And they were able to trace back from that, this DNA is a match with this other person, which is not her, but they were able to trace back that it was going over to this other guy who I think was dead or something.
Familial.
Yeah, it was like, it's kind of interesting.
It's amazing.
It's stuff when you're like,
absolutely,
could have got away with it too, you're thinking back in the 70s and then totally busted.
Excuse me. Yeah, it's incredible. Absolutely incredible. And like going on from that then, like, do you know how the son of Sam was caught?
Firstly, son of Sam, I don't know.
Son of Sam, he was another serial killer in America. He was caught because he started communicating with the police. Like sending, you'll never catch me kind of letters and stuff like that. And then the police kind of were able to communicate with him through the newspaper and stuff. And then they were able to, I think he set up some way of, that they could, I can't remember anyway, they were able to communicate with him. But they said to him, hey, you know what you should do? Stop posting us in letters. You should put it on a floppy and send it in to us.
Oh, dude. So
he did. He sent it on a floppy. And of course, the first thing they did was take the letter and, they have a copy of that. But then did a what do they call it when you bring back information that's been deleted?
Yeah,
they did that in the floppy drive, and they were able to find a partial thing of a church. Then they went and at the church they saw a car that matched a witness's description of a car near a scene of one of the murders. And then he came out and they were like, that matches the description of one of the people that spotted him somewhere at some point.
And that's why you should always zero fill your drives. None of this formatting crap.
Yeah,
cover all the evidence.
He probably just deleted. He probably didn't format. He probably just deleted the stuff.
He was kind of thinking these floppies cost money.
He was thinking the cops should think they're never going to think about recovery software.
What is, explain Mart, zero fill? You said zero fill.
Oh, just
like I know what it is, obviously. But
yeah.
Oh, obviously you know what it is.
You can format a drive, which really just deletes what's called a master boot record, which is like the file that keeps a record of where every other thing is on the disk. If you just delete that one file, well, as far as the computer is concerned, that disk is empty. But actually, every file that was on the disk is still on the disk. The only thing that's deleted is a little list for the computer to read up, like the index, and see where stuff is. So if you format a drive, and it only takes a few seconds, and you think, well, that's blank now, Windows will read, 100% free. It's totally not free at all, and all your data is still there. So if you want to scorch earth, dispose of all the evidence of whatever you were doing on your computer. You want to zero fill it, which is just utility run, and it'll literally fill every single sector of the drive with blank data so that it'll be fully.
Of course,
the CIA won't get it back.
Of course, the best way is to drill in a hammer.
Yeah, that's what they do. Like, you know, there's data destruction companies, and literally what they do.
They have a hammer.
Well, effectively, yeah, but I've actually seen it in action. So what they do is there's like two mechanical arms, and they hold a disc and then twist it. So all the platters, you can visibly see yourself. You can see them getting shredded in half, and it's very much for show. Like, really, all you need is some company who's a professional organization take my discs and give me a certificate of destruction. It's called, where it'll say, "See, we've really got rid of all your stuff," but they literally could tell you, "Whoop, come out to our place. You can see us shredding them in front of your eyes if you insist," which is stupid. But
and would magnets not be the best way? Is there a thing with magnets where if you pass a powerful magnet over a hard drive, it just
there
wipes
definitely is. There definitely is.
Because you've seen sci-fi films where they have like a kill switch for the hackers.
Yeah,
have a kill switch in their apartment. They flick it and it powers up these magnets, electromagnets, and it just destroys everything.
Yeah, but how safe do you know that it's definitely?
No, exactly. I wouldn't be confident by getting a magnet and going, "That's done."
Yeah.
But that's what's going to happen someday.
Put a drill through it. You're pretty confident.
Yeah, exactly.
But even that, they can if it's a physical. I think SSDs are different. You put a drill through an SSD, done. But if you put a drill through an old HDD hard drive, apparently if they find all the bits, they can.
The sections will be okay.
They can literally, and they won't get all the information obviously because a bit with the actual hole in it. But even broken up, they can jigsaw puzzle it back together.
But I
and
think
they
if
can
there's a
get
hole in it, the data, the amount that's missing would make the rest that's not missing. There would just be, I don't know,
unreadable.
They read it, but it's like having 60% of a sentence, but you don't have the other 40%. You don't.
But the thing is, sometimes that's all they need.
Well,
if they're looking for, if they're looking for evidence of, for example, they're looking for evidence of fraud. I'm not going to go down the very dark road. You could go down on that. But if you're looking for evidence of fraud, they just find a part of a document that says, "Hey, meet me in the parking garage at 6 o'clock," and then I'll give you the documents you need. Then but you're missing half of that. But you get enough of it to go.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
Very clever people do these things.
Yeah.
But it's one of those ways the world could end. No, it wouldn't be. Like, the way there's the obvious asteroid, nuclear bomb, etc. But one of the things that wouldn't end the world, but it would end, or at least severely disrupt civilization, is a solar flare.
Oh, an EMP.
And that would essentially just wipe every hard drive on the planet.
Yeah, and the chances of that would actually
no dead.
But the chances of that are way higher than maybe not nuclear war at the moment, but certainly higher than being hit by a comet, I think.
Definitely.
Because the solar flares happen fairly regularly.
They happen all the time.
Yeah.
Well, not literally all the time, but very regularly. But because of whatever way the Earth's pole has this kind of a magnetosphere around Earth that deflects most of it away.
Yeah. And I think they have to. I think the ones that come off the sun, they go in different directions. They're not.
Yeah. It's
not
literally
like
just a burst goes out of the sun in some random direction.
Random direction. So it has to. It has
straight
to,
in Earth's face.
Is that what happened in The Day After Tomorrow? Is it the one where it's frozen with a...
No, that was a whole other...
That was the Earth slowed down or something?
I don't even remember.
Because I remember Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about, he was saying how ridiculous it was, like, that the neutrinos have changed, they were saying. They were saying a really basic subatomic particle has, like, changed, and this is what they was doing the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like,
but that's like nitpicking a Fast and Furious movie. It's like,
you can't nitpick movies. It's just, come on.
A flying headbutt across
you can't
wouldn't go that far.
Under Siege. Steven Seagal, right? There's a scene in that, and I can't remember the exact words, but the guy was hacking, and he was doing the whole hacking where he's hammered away the keyboard like a lunatic, and then he said something along the lines of, somebody said to him, "Are you in yet?" And he's like, no, just 1 second now. I just need 2 more megabytes of RAM. There we go. he typed 2 megabytes of RAM into the computer and it allowed him to hack it. So, like, yes, that's ridiculous for anyone that knows stuff about computers. And the science thing is going to be ridiculous to the Neil deGrasse Junior High.
Yeah.
But for most people watching these movies, it's not. It's fine. They're not going to notice.
I mean, there's a certain, obviously, suspension of disbelief that, depending on the movie, that you're just going to shrug your shoulders and go, I allow it.
Yeah. Even if you do spot bad stuff, you're just going to be like, ah.
My favourite ridiculous moment in a movie was one of the Fast and the Furious movies. I can't remember which one.
Oh, spoilers for Under Siege. Right.
Yeah, also spoilers for Fast and the Furious. Ridiculous stuff happens. But there's one where, I can't remember what the bald guy...
Vin Diesel.
Yes. He does this crazy flying headbutt across a plane Oh, if you Google it, look
Is
it up on YouTube.
it because the plane's going down or something that he was able to use
I think
gravity
he
or
just
something?
jumped heroically and flying headbuttingly.
I have seen the first Fast and Furious movie, and that's it.
Oh,
I've seen nothing
you're
else.
missing
The
out,
franchise.
Barry. You are
I
missing out.
I don't feel I am. I feel like my life is better having not seen it. I actually lump it in the same place as things like the Cardassians. I've never seen a single bit of that.
What?
I have
Barry,
no interest in seeing
there's
it.
no way on. That is way too harsh on.
Well, it's effectively saying these are two things I don't
like.
You know.
Yeah, but
Have you ever seen me playing a driving game?
yeah, but that's not
I
saying.
have no interest in it.
Yeah, but you've compared. Okay.
Dawn was like getting offended on
Yes.
behalf of Fast and the Furious
this,
franchise.
this is like the 20,000 conversations we had over the years about Minecraft. It's like I'm going, I don't want to play. I have no interest in playing Minecraft. And
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah, but eventually you played loads of Minecraft.
I played loads of Minecraft
Mark,
for
on the other hand.
one reason and one reason only. It's because
Yeah.
I could help my son play Minecraft. That's
Yeah.
the only reason I play Minecraft.
Does he still play Minecraft?
He was actually playing it today
Oh,
for the first time in ages.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are they ever going to make a Minecraft 2 or whatever? That's always something
That's
I felt was a
actually,
missed
that's actually a
trick.
good
I
question.
was like, keep the same game, but just make the graphics not look like
No,
something out of
the,
1980.
the graphics aren't the problem. In fact, there aren't many problems. It's like,
It's actually very close to a perfect game.
yeah, genuinely.
It is. It actually is.
Like,
Well, I
Graphics
remember
aside.
the first time Donald showed me Minecraft, and it was one of those, you know, oh, look at this game, it's great. I was like kind of waiting for the punchline or something. And then I realized, are you for real? This is the thing.
And you know how huge it is. Like,
And
it's
I'm
massive.
not a big person who's like, oh, graphics have to be good or a game is rubbish.
Yeah.
Not at all. But geez.
Put some effort in.
But yeah, exactly.
But it is literally a game that the graphics don't matter. And I have to say, I did enjoy learning it to help Bushy be able to play.
yeah.
But it's not a game where I'd be mad to play more and more of. It's not Skyrim, it's not Fallout 4.
I also barely qualify it as a game. It's like saying a box of Lego is a game. You can have fun with a box of
Yeah,
Lego,
yeah,
but I don't know, a game.
No. In Minecraft. Okay, so what's the aim of Skyrim?
The Skyrim is to stop Alduin coming back and destroying the world.
Okay. What's the aim of your favorite game? What's your favorite game?
Put it this way, just to make it generic. The aim of a game would be, depending on the type of game, single player games especially, will have the kind of journey going through a storyline from start to finish and, you know, that kind of a... But then, see, you're comparing apples with oranges, kind of. A Skyrim type game is a huge, expansive story, like being in an interactive movie, whereas a box of Lego isn't. But that's not to say it's different.
Exactly. However, Minecraft is the following. You start off with literally nothing, okay? In the same way in Minecraft, Skyrim or any game, you start off with little, okay? And you eventually have to build yourself up to be able to achieve the ultimate goal, isn't it?
So there's a progress in it. But there is an end to Minecraft, isn't there? There's
There
like
is.
the Ender
That's
Dragon.
what I'm saying. There's an actual...
Okay.
There's that whole story arc. The thing is, you make your own story arc. You know?
The graphics are still terrible. I'm not going to play it.
Yeah. I don't blame you, honestly.
But it is two-player game, wise, or multiplayer. I mean,
Oh,
It's
multiplayer,
brilliant.
yeah. Well, I don't know, brilliant. Now, one thing I will say, some of the people that play this game are absolutely incredibly impressive. And having seen and been on the server you have on, I've been blown away by some of the stuff that you've built in there, that the kids that used to play it on your
Yeah.
server built, the stuff that Sophie and Lucy have built. It blew my mind. I was like, oh my god, how in the name of goodness did you build this huge cathedral thing? And the pig floating, was it a pig or something that's floating, or a cat or something
Actually,
that's floating in the sky?
Yeah, you know what I saw once on YouTube? Someone had built a working computer
Yeah,
inside
yeah,
Minecraft.
Yeah.
They've built a library in Minecraft which allows people in countries that have no access to a lot of literature. There's heavy restrictions on literature in those countries. They've built libraries in Minecraft where people can go into the game, go into the library and read restricted books.
I think I was reading, not reading, I think it's on YouTube that someone built a working version of Sonic the Hedgehog.
It's amazing. It's absolutely
I mean, yeah,
amazing.
you can do cool stuff with it. I'll grant that.
Yeah, it's incredible.
However, what started all this conversation?
DNA.
Oh, yeah.
DNA.
So what interesting thing did you hear in the last week or two? What's your tale?
Actually, wait, I'll pass and let you go because I don't actually have an off-the-cuff interesting thing back there. I have a million different things. Like, one of the things I was talking to the kids about today is, do we think there'll be a nuclear war? Which is actually
Or the what do they call it? The doomsday clock is at the closest it's ever been ever.
Yeah. Do you know the doomsday clock?
I do, but the problem with the doomsday clock is it's literally made up and actually doesn't mean anything. And when they say that it's 2 seconds before midnight on the doomsday clock,
but
that also is completely meaningless. All it means is we're in dangerous times.
Yeah, but it's completely meaningless. But it's not like me and some other one of my friends put a clock together and said, we saw some news and we think it's gone. This is like the experts that are like...
Yeah, there's a group of experts that watch world events and make that decision.
Trust me,
90
they have
seconds
access to
to
the same
midnight.
knowledge I do. The world is kind of in danger right now. I'm not an expert,
Wait a
and I
second.
can say the same thing they're saying. We've never been more in danger other than the Cuban Missile Crisis. I mean...
No, yeah, but would you have said it 10 years ago?
Yeah, I would have, because honestly...
And you would have been wrong because it was way...
Yeah.
It was like 5 minutes to midnight at that point.
Yeah, it changes.
Oh no, of course it changes.
And like,
yeah.
look, the people who do this, they know that you know, obviously it's just most people understand clocks, so it's just a matter of how do you tell people we're in extra deep trouble.
I guess all I'm saying is I just feel like it's a bit of a oversimplified
Well, it's an incredibly
metric
simplified.
to try to show people.
But the thing about it is
danger.
they don't. It is a very simple way of showing something that's incredibly complex, and these guys look at everything, and they're not just talking about the war in Ukraine. They're looking at the relationships in the South China Seas between Malaysia and Philippines, China, and all those places where that's heating up as well. They're looking at the relationships in South America. They're looking at all of that stuff, but they're also looking at things like food supplies and oil supplies and all that kind of stuff, and they're putting all that in together. They're not just looking at watching the news and going, "Ooh, better move the clock forward."
Maybe I'm a bit overcritical of the clock.
And you're oversimplifying.
I'll grant to that.
And it's because it looks so simple. It's the simple idea of it's 90 seconds to midnight.
Yeah,
That seems like such a simple way of saying it, but the amount of stuff that goes into it. I mean, I just brought it up there. That this year, the Science and Security Board of the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. That's a mouthful. That's got to be some important people. With a name like that, come on. But yeah,
that's it. You know the Iron Maiden song.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
2 minutes to midnight. Yeah.
So do you think we're going to have nuclear war?
I don't know. It's like because I've always said like, I've genuinely always believed there will be a World War III. So what? Like, do you think there'll be a World War III?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I
See,
mean,
nobody knows. That's the thing. But
since the proliferation of nuclear weapons, we've managed to avoid it, and they've been around for 60 years.
yeah,
No more. What am I saying?
80 years.
80 years. Yeah. And the doomsday clock's been around for 75.
It doesn't seem like a big boast. We've managed to get through like nearly 1 century without a huge world war involving everyone.
Yeah, and without using the most destructive weapons we've ever managed to make as a species. Although they have used them, so obviously. But I think I mean, it could happen, but I don't think it will. I hope it doesn't. But I don't think it will, because I think even Putin, crazy and all as he is, I don't think he'll go that far.
I wouldn't put it past him because he's nothing to lose.
It's true.
He's old, he's dying anyway. Might as well take everyone else out with me.
Yeah, true enough. But I think if you came to that, I think he'd be stopped. I think someone is in a circle will just go, you know what, I don't want the world.
I mean, that has happened already, you know. I can't remember sometime in the 80s or something, there was some
Glitch.
Russian nuclear sub. Yeah, you know it. The essentially his job was, if you see missiles coming in, launch back. Yeah, we're screwed once the missiles are going to come in anyway. It's over for us, but we'll make sure we'll take them fuckers out too. And he saw them come in. He was meant to press the button. That was his orders, and he just was like, you know, I don't trust this. I'm just not gonna. And he just didn't.
Yeah.
Which meant he directly defied orders, which in the old Soviet Union was not a good thing.
there was another time when that happened.
But it was lucky. It was just false reading.
There was another time when that happens well when is that the thing with the clouds?
I don't know exactly what caused the false reading, so maybe it was a cloud.
Maybe it was the clouds because there was a satellite up in space, and the satellite is meant to look at the what do you call it? The burn that comes from the back of a rocket.
All right. Okay. Yeah. The burn.
Okay, and that burn has a certain luminosity, and there's a way that this satellite, this is back in the 90s or 80s basically, and it was, I suppose, it'd be primitive today's standards, but whatever way it was able to calculate this glint is happening this amount of height over the atmosphere. It can only mean one thing, and it's going in this direction, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So then, anyway, this satellite one day was like, "Whoop! I see this glint," and it kind of sent a message back to, again, some dude that was sitting at a desk, and he was like, "Oh crap!" And I think he contacted his supervisor, his boss, basically in the army.
Yeah.
I don't know what the correct term is, and that guy was like, "No, we'll wait, because if we do something," and then they found out it was just whatever way the cloud. It's basically it was the sun bouncing off the clouds. So the Russians have saved their own asses before, and they did as well.
And I honestly think that if Putin decided he's going to start World War III, someone in his inner circle is going to say, "You know what? I kind of like the plan more or less the way it is," and they'd stop him.
Yeah, there's only so much money you can make off.
It won't even be someone who's making money off it. It'll be like someone in the army.
That's the only
who's
people that he has around him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Someone in the army who just.
I do know this much though. There was a time when, in general, I looked at Russia and everything with, I loved the whole idea of communism and.
Russia always.
Tell me this was
sucked
back
for a
before you
long,
found
long
out
time.
anything about Russia. Before you knew anything at all
No,
about
no.
communism.
No,
No,
Or
Gordon's
what the Russian
always
people.
been a Russia fanboy.
Yeah, I've genuinely
Before
been
you
a
knew
Russia-
what the Russian people went through
No.
under communism.
No, I've always been a Russia fanboy because it shows. It's like I love airports and I love hospitals because they represent. Because one person can't build an airport or a hospital. They can, obviously, but you get what I'm saying. It takes a team of engineers to come together in a certain way, and it's like the Hoover Dam. The Hoover Dam represents something great that happened. It was like a huge bunch of people came together and they built this thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
When are we going to start talking about Russia?
You'll get there.
No, that's everything in Russia is that. There's like.
I mean, they've done great stuff, but I don't want to be all disparaging of a whole nation, but Russia is kind of shit. When they're fighting a war, they send out like a bunch of guys and say, here's a gun. When he dies, you pick it up. And they're still doing the same thing 100 years later. How is that country anything but rubbish?
Well, it's rubbish because of the politics in it.
The politics in it kind of makes... No, actually, don't get me wrong, because I do know that the Russian people are actually great.
Well, I would say, and normally, this is my point. Normally, I'd agree with you, but it's like, there's only so much you can excuse being brainwashed.
No, I disagree with you totally there. Because for starters, we're looking at Russia going, oh, poor Russia, they're all brainwashed. And they are. But we're brainwashed over here too.
We are, except that we're not flaming. We know, okay then, I mean, yeah, by that rationale, I was going to say, we know we're not waging war on someone. But...
I mean, for example, I guarantee you, every news story you hear about Ukraine, from this side of the fence, is all about, oh, they're such heroes, everything is going so great, look at them blowing up loads of Russians with all these guns we give them and stuff. Now, I read a lot of American news, but they really have to put a positive spin on it, because America specifically is basically funding the war in Ukraine, and there are politicians in America that are saying, why do we care? Why are we helping some other crummy country over there that we don't care about? When there's people at home we should be giving this money to.
Yeah.
So they have to put a positive spin on how worthwhile it is to do this and how you're keeping away the big bad Russians and everything. That's just spinning bullshit as well. Now, I mean, every news, I'm got very cynical about news. I'm sure there is objective true news, and if anyone can find a source, tell me, because I'm looking for it. But every news is bullshit to a certain degree, because every news is coming from a perspective.
Yeah, well, definitely. Yeah.
It's whoever's paying the bills.
To varying degrees, right? But you don't... The problem is when you're under the spell of some bullshit story that's made up, you don't know that you are. So you're looking at somebody over there going, ha, he's believing all this thing he's been told. And you're over here believing the same thing.
But there is this thing. There is definitely the thing of Putin was at a rally and loads of people, soldiers and civilians and everything, they were wearing this big stupid Z. Okay, do you know the thing about the Z?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how that came about?
No.
Do you know? Okay, so basically, you're Putin or you're whatever the stupid dumbass generals he has. Okay, and they were planning to, we're going to send tanks to
This was the first force that went into Ukraine, and they were marked with
before,
Z.
before,
Is that so they could distinguish between themselves? And
Yeah.
or
That's
between
pretty
their
simple.
own tanks. Yeah,
No, it was
it's
just
like-
there was one section of the army that was like, you guys are going in first. Mark yourselves different from the rest of the army, so that at a glance we'll know that's the forward operating.
and that's literally where the Z came from.
Okay.
Things happened where the tanks that had the Z moved into important places, photographs of them were taken. There was no thought at all of like, oh, we'll use the Z as propaganda.
Yeah.
But then there was a thing of like, then it became a thing of, oh, why is there a Z on this tank? Is it for Zelensky that they're bullying? And all this kind of stuff. And it's like, no, it is not. But then they just ran with this Z thing. And it's like, and now this is the big thing. It's like,
It's a pro-war symbol.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
super propaganda. That's what I mean about. That's fairly stupid.
There's nothing stupid about
No,
that.
that's human nature. We will latch on to a symbol,
I know
Very,
we're
very
very
quickly, very simple.
but when
especially, and the simpler the better.
So I know what you're saying, Donald. Because of the negative connotation that we have with that Z, it represents such evil to us. You're like, oh, and then people are liking it and wearing T-shirts with it on. But just look at the Allies storming Normandy Beach in 44, whatever it was.
Yeah.
They're known as the greatest generation. They were the heroes that came across the Atlantic and saved our ass when we were all being beat up by the evil Nazis.
yeah,
They came over and they saved us. And that's exactly the narrative that the Russian people are being told. They're being told, your young men that are going to war are the greatest generation of the world today
Okay.
that are storming the Normandy beach of going into
I see
Ukraine
what
to
you're
get
saying.
rid of the
I
Nazis.
see what you're saying, but there is a difference, and the difference is when. Okay. 5 years ago, a lot of people who are soldiers now would have been 13 or 14. Okay.
Okay.
They had the internet. They knew, and there wasn't a thing of like America's bad and the West is bad and evil. Okay.
That's 100% the narrative always in America. In Russia. They've always been told
Well-
constantly for decades, America is always interfering
Yeah,
in
but
our affairs with
now the
public
whole
world.
thing has changed to all of the West is evil.
But that's
So
what
what
they
about all of the Russians that were working? Like, definitely, Mert. There's definitely Russians who worked abroad, who have come back and who are fighting now, and those dumbasses should know better.
Let me answer that
Definitely.
question exactly, okay? Because I think it's unfair to call them dumbasses because they've been duped, okay? Maybe you should say you shouldn't have been duped, you should have known better, so therefore you're a dumbass, and that's harsh. But there's two things. Firstly, you got to remember these guys that were sent. These people are not volunteering to go to war. They're being handed a slip of paper and told, "You are drafted, and if you don't go, you're going
Yeah,
to go to
I
the
know that
gulag."
a certain amount are drafted,
Oh,
definitely. Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of certain amount
Yeah.
are drafted, and I've listened to people talking on podcasts about Russian people who were interviewed by the New York Times were saying, I tried to escape. I hid in his workplace, sleeping under the table for weeks, and just got
Yeah.
caught." You know, these aren't people who are volunteering to go to war. But you're talking about sorry, what were you saying again?
I said.
Oh, sorry, we're talking about they should know better because before this Ukraine war, the Russians were living abroad. They knew the outside world. But there is a genuine narrative in Russia of the big bad NATO is encroaching on our territory. They're building up to attack us and squeeze us out and destroy us as a nation. There's even some degree of validity. I hate to say it because I disagree so strongly with it, but people say, hey, NATO caused this war as well by talking to Ukraine about membership and everything. That NATO instigated this with Russia. Yeah, sure, Russia threw the first punch because they were backed into a corner. That's bullshit. Completely unacceptable, and I totally reject it. But the argument can be made that Russia were minding
And
their own
Europe.
business and
Europe were talking to Ukraine about
So-
entering the EU.
for decades, the Russian people have always got this narrative of the big bad America is always trying to take us down, and NATO is trying to keep shoving up against us. And you know, when the war suddenly happens, there's a lot of people in Russia who are like, "Well, finally we can fight back," or against what may be all lies, but it's not their fault.
It's not their lies.
And 100%, I'm telling you, a lot of the stuff that we believe, I'm always conscious of this in my
no,
own
I am
stuff I believe,
yeah.
I know is bullshit.
Yeah.
But I just don't know what is. I'm sure that I'm being
Yeah.
lied to too.
Yeah. But anyway, that's
your non-topic.
That's my non-topic. What were you gonna? What did you have?
Well, a recent story that I read about in the news today was apparently there was in fact, you probably remember it. There was a big terrorist attack in Paris in 2015.
Yeah.
And like 130 people were killed or something. But one of those 130 people was an American citizen, and that American citizen's family are suing Google, believe it or not, because of that attack. Now, already that's weird, so I'll give you a bit of detail, but it actually could really ruin it for the rest of us. Because basically, this is the argument that the lawyer is making, whether it's valid or not. I'll just lay it out as he says. He's saying, ISIS put up videos on YouTube, and some of them are extreme, and some of them are just, not graphically violent or anything, but just espousing the virtues of ISIS, etc. And if someone puts a video on YouTube and someone else chooses to watch it, Google is kind of saying, hey, we can't control every single video that goes up. We take down as much bad stuff as we can. But if somebody puts it there and someone else watches it, nothing to do with me. And that could be considered a valid argument. But the argument that this lawyer is making is, but that's if somebody just comes along and chooses to watch a video. But then Google's algorithm of YouTube will say, well, because you like this, maybe you like this, and start serving you more videos of the same nature.
Okay.
So that means that it's changing Google's role from being passively just facilitating someone else uploading a video to actively putting these videos in front of
because of their algorithm.
people. Yeah, exactly. So that's the kind of case that that this lawyer is making. And apparently there's some, in the early days of the internet, there was some crummy little ISP that was, hosting message boards and everything, and they were manually trying to clean up as much as they could, but you're never going to be manually able to take down every bad thing that goes on the internet. So they were actively doing it as much as they could, but because something, got posted, that went viral, and this ISP got legally in trouble for it, that opened up this case in the first place.
It gives a kind of precedence.
Yeah, but the thing was, essentially the ruling was made in American courts of, funny enough, if you hadn't tried to clean anything, you could just argue, hey, we're just putting a message board up there and allowing people to put stuff there. But because they actively started taking some stuff down, now you're assuming the role of the moderator, so now you failed to moderate and it's your fault. Whereas if you didn't try to moderate anything, well, there was no moderator, nobody's to blame. So they passed, the Senate in America passed this bill at the time to say basically, you can do some moderating, but if you miss something, it's not your fault. And that law, which seems kind of insignificant enough, is kind of the backbone that all of the internet today is built on. So if Google get in trouble for, I guess you served these ISIS people YouTube videos that were all terroristy, that could change how the internet will be for us. And I can't even imagine what that would look like.
Yeah.
But imagine a world where, basically no one can post anything, because if someone finds it offensive, it can't be there, and no internet site is going to want anything to do with that. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see that happening really. But
that level of wokeness,
more stupid stuff happened, in law before.
Yeah.
But that was something I found.
That's really interesting, actually, isn't it?
And kind of, I don't know.
It reminds me of. Was it telling you that in between the time that we had the last podcast and now that I did a first aid course?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's a thing that if you're driving, if I'm walking somewhere and I see someone falling off their bicycle and I'm like, just keep on walking. Okay. Like, that's not illegal. It's not a crime. I don't know how nice it is. Like, you should probably go up and see, hey, are you okay?
Morally speaking, help your fellow man, yeah.
Yeah. But then if you're a trained first aider, okay, and if I went up and then I'd be like, oh no, this person needs CPR, and I was like, I now know how to do CPR. If I start CPR, okay, is like, now I don't know how much, but I know I'm definitely at least I'm very obliged to keep doing it. Do you understand?
Yeah, but it's not a law. I think France.
No. I think it might. I think
No.
Well, you are protected by the Good Samaritan law.
Yeah.
What's
You
the Good
are.
Samaritan law?
So the Good Samaritan law states that if I don't know if it's a law, it's a thing.
It is.
The good-
It is because
it is law. Because
it is,
if you pull a drowning person out of a river and you start doing CPR on them, there's a very very good chance you will either break their ribs or kill them by breaking their rib into their heart.
Well, if you're doing CPR, they should already be dead.
Yeah, technically. But then you break their ribs, but you actually bring them back. But you manage to break their ribs, and then they try and sue you for breaking their ribs. Well, this Good Samaritan law says, well, no, he was being a Good Samaritan. You can't sue him.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So that's what the Good Samaritan thing is for. So I think if you stop and try and save someone, CPR is an incredibly hard thing to do. It takes a lot of energy, and you could be doing it for 35 minutes, an hour while you're waiting for an ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be there doing this very, very tiring thing for
Yeah.
ages and ages and ages. So, like, the idea is that trained paramedics will arrive and take over.
Yeah.
But if you're in the back end of Donegal or rural Kerry or something, or even up Connemara, like, you could be there for a long time before the ambulance gets to you. And I don't know what you're saying though. You're suggesting that if you stop because you're just shattered or you're really tired or whatever,
Yeah.
that you're liable.
No, it actually reminded me of the thing you were saying about Google. That if
If you did nothing, you're fine. But if you do something, you're responsible.
yeah, it just reminded me of it. It just
I
reminded me.
Well, I
don't
know-
think that's.
I did a CPR course years and years ago. But I do remember after I did it, I felt a little bit kind of stressed out about, oh no, what if I'm walking up the street and some old man falls down and I need to go give him mouth to mouth and stuff. I was thinking, before when I didn't know anything, I would be like, oh, this is terrible. I'll just phone the ambulance and just hang around for a while. But now you suddenly have this responsibility that you have to do something if something happens. And it's like, oh, stress. And,
Interestingly, though,
Responsibility.
the mouth-to-mouth thing is gone. You don't do that anymore.
oh, really?
You don't do that anymore. Actually, that's probably changed since your time.
That makes me wonder,
Yeah.
why was it, if it wasn't needed, then why were they making people
It is
do it
needed.
before? Oh.
It is needed, except that because of COVID, it's now more dangerous to do it because of the risk.
Really though? Is COVID still that much of a prevalent kind of thing?
I don't
Well, it's
know.
not just.
Like if
it's not
somebody's
just-
already dead, by the time you're
but it's
doing
also
this, they're
not.
dead.
It's not just COVID. It's any
Yeah.
communicable disease.
Because- and-
so
and
if
it
they're
comes-
if they're injured, they might have blood around their mouth. And you're
Here,
about to get the
there was
CPR.
like when like the CPR training is interesting because it's like now that all three of us have done CPR, if like do you know what the first thing is when you come across a scene that might need CPR? What's the first thing you check or do?
Make the phone call and then start doing stuff.
I suppose,
Or make
but-
sure someone else makes the phone call.
Make sure someone else makes
Well-
a phone call if you have to do the CPR.
or the first thing is you need to check out the person, see if they even need a phone call.
Oh, yeah.
No, the first thing is check the scene, make sure
The
it's safe
first
for
thing
you.
is check the scene. Yeah,
Make
yeah,
sure
that's
that it's
it.
safe
Yeah,
for
yeah.
you to check
Yeah.
the person.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, that's it. And do you remember how many years ago since you did
Oh
CPR?
man, the last time I did first aid training, 2005, 4, something
Yeah,
like that.
and you still remember stuff.
Yeah, but then again, I've done it several times. I did it for several different jobs.
Yeah,
and then I did
yeah,
it when I
yeah.
was young fella for life
Yeah,
saving
yeah,
and stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So yeah, I've done it a few times. Like,
But what
oh
was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
no, but we did get a text in from one of our listeners. So I just have to check that out for you now. So the three main reasons for this are, the first is that
For this what?
the CPR thing. The three main reasons for this. The first, that the thought of giving rescue breaths makes bystanders less likely to want to perform CPR.
Yeah,
So
that was my thing.
the second is that rescue breaths interrupt life-saving chest compressions. The third is the risk of disease of transmission. That's the reason that
Ah.
mental health has been stopped.
Huh.
So thanks to our listener Rachel for that.
It's great to have listeners listening in real time. They can, you know.
very unusual for a podcast.
So that's actually pretty good. Did you have anything else to say before we got to the main
Well,
course?
I mean, nobody asked for this and nobody needs to know it.
Excellent.
But
Go for it.
does anyone know where the oldest hotel in the world is? Or want to hazard a guess?
If I hear
I'm
that
gonna
it's in
guess.
that loan, I'm gonna pop a flimming gasket.
Okay, your gaskets are safe.
Okay, good. Okay,
But your guess is wrong.
yeah. Okay.
Right, your guess?
I don't know why I'm going to say Russia.
No.
No, wait. Let me. Can I?
No, one guess. That's all you
Oh,
get.
One guess.
No, one
Okay,
guess.
okay. Go on.
Japan.
Really?
Yeah, a hotel opened in Japan in 705 current era.
705.
And it's been run by the same family for 52 generations.
See, the Japanese do it right.
52 generations!
Imagine.
52 generations!
Give
That's
a
insane.
business to an Irish family.
Yeah.
Good luck to you 3 generations time.
3 generations in the gutter, gone.
that's
or,
right.
or sold to a multinational.
Alcoholism.
Yeah, or it's been sold to the Radisson Group or the
Yeah.
Hilton Group or somebody, yeah. You build it up enough just to make a load of money and get out of it.
Yeah.
52 generations they've been running it.
That's impressive, actually. What's the name of the hotel?
Couldn't tell you.
No.
It's a big long Japanese word.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Now, here's another one, trivia for you that nobody asked for. Nobody
Yeah.
needs to know this either.
Excellent.
What was the first time on television somebody said, I'd Googled it or used Google as a verb?
Oh, I actually do know this. Martin, what's your
I
thing?
have no idea at all.
No idea?
Was it Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
It was Buffy the Vampire
Was it?
Slayer. Well done,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that phrase will become old soon.
Which Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
No, I googled it. I'll be like, I binged it.
Really? You think Bing is going to overtake?
That's a nice segue actually.
Oh
into
no,
our-
we were.
Well, I have one more. I have one more after this one. But yeah, in an episode of Buffy, Willow asked Buffy,
Oh, Willow.
"Did you Google it?" And obviously Xander didn't know what Googling was because he turned around to her and said, "She's 17, or did you Google her?" And then she's 17, and then Willow had to explain it was an internet search engine. And the last one is obviously this is more of a visual thing, but I want you to put your hands flat on the table if you can, and then press your pinky and thumb together.
Pinky and thumb,
Yeah.
as in my smallest finger. Is
Hold it
it?
up to anybody. Any suckers looking on the camera will actually see what
Yeah.
you mean. I'm just gonna go on.
So if you can see a thing popping up on your wrists, you have it, Mart. Yeah, Mart has it. Is it on both wrists?
I don't know. What thing? That thing?
No, yeah, that little thing that sticks up, yeah. So basically, you don't have it and I don't have it. So basically, our bodies have evolved and said, yeah, that's a useless muscle, we don't need it anymore. Yours has still kept it. Yeah, Cro-Magnon.
So mostly I
yeah,
can't
we're done, yeah. So apparently, you know the way we're constantly evolving and we're getting rid of stuff we don't need. The body just evolves away; it doesn't need it anymore. So apparently, if you do that, it shows up a little thing on your hand, and if you have it, it's a thing that our body doesn't need.
Do you
anymore.
feel inferior?
No. do you? Lack of muscles?
Well, we do feel superior.
Superior because we've already gotten rid of it. We've already evolved. We've evolved beyond you, Mark. Sorry.
Yeah, well, my Cro-Magnon people will be able to beat your sissy ass people up.
Not with a useless muscle that nobody uses anymore.
I'll just use it by hitting you.
Take this.
So yeah, there are things you didn't ask for and didn't need to know.
That's pretty good, actually, Barry. So the latest talk at the moment. Oh, okay. We collectively we've all said before this we'll look into ChatGPT or we'll look into AI related stuff. Okay. So there's lots of different ways to measure how big an impact a thing has. So, for example, but there's one scale, and it's the 100 million users scale. Okay, do you know this?
That's an actual scale.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you done this?
No, I presume, I'm going to guess that it just means if something has 100 million followers that it's a
But
big
how
number.
fast does it get to 100 million followers? It's presumably a thing, yeah.
Exactamundo.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So let me just check here. 100 million.
Is this how many people are signed up to ChatGPT?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm signed up to it. I haven't used it yet because there's a waiting list.
Well, they got 1 million users in 5 days.
That's mad.
That is like, it just means it just really.
Hit the cyclist.
You know, yeah, exactly. Because if you start anything new, it takes time for
Yeah,
people
yeah.
to even just hear about it and decide, oh, I'll sign up to it.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to see it just. Oh yeah, that's it. So basically, the most popular thing that a lot of people used that is usually measured on this list is how many years it is years until the telephone had 100 million users.
Oh right. Okay. Probably 40 or 50 years.
I mean, I've no idea, but that is not really like with like because
Well, no,
signing up to a
100 million
website or
users,
having to
100
go and buy a phone.
There's other things in between, but
Okay, you're asking me to guess how.
Yeah, 75 years.
Is that how long it took?
Yeah.
Oh, what did I
Okay.
say? 50,
You
60?
said 50, 60. It's pretty good.
Wasn't too far off. Yeah.
But then there's like, how long until...
How long did it take 100 million people to start using the wheel? Oh, we don't have metrics from back then, damn
Yeah,
it.
we don't.
Yeah.
But basically,
A hell of a long time.
but then there are
they
things
had the
like,
wheel, they didn't have
how long
100
did it take
people.
Facebook to get 100 million users? It took like, I think it took like 40 months or something.
Was it?
Okay, something like that. I'll check it up now in a few seconds. And then it goes down to TikTok just took a matter of months, and ChatGPT just took 2 months to get 100 million users. So I remember we all remember in December, was there any talk really of ChatGPT?
I mean, there was for 100 million people, or for like not
No, but two months ago.
Well, it came out in November.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so there's millions of people anyway.
But were there
hadn't
not
heard
a load of people that were using the previous version of ChatGPT?
Because it's ChatGPT version 3 is what we're using. When we talk about it, we're talking about version 3.
But there weren't people using the previous version. The funny thing is, the crowd that have, I guess, made ChatGPT,
OpenAI.
Yeah, OpenAI. They were, I don't exactly know when they were started up in 2015 or something.
Something like that, yeah.
They, obviously, as Donald said, the ChatGPT that we're all using now when you go online and use it is 3.5. But they had that done, dusted, tested, and they put it on a shelf. And they were like, now let's start working on ChatGPT 4. And they're working on it now for, I don't know, months or maybe a year. And I don't know who decided, hey, let's take this program that's up here, let's kind of polish it off a bit and give it an interface that normal end users can use that don't have any technical abilities, and just make it available to the public. They did not expect that it would take off the way it did. So when you're talking about how many other Chat GPTs were there and who was using them, I don't think that the previous ones are even made available to the public. And the decision to make this one available to the public was kind of if we put it out there, some people will use it, we'll get some kind of usable data that might help us work on GPT-4. They did not expect it to take over the world.
And what it's done, of course, is it's made all the other guys who are making the Meta and Google go, okay, we need to get Google's one Bard.
Yeah.
We need to get ours out there. Because if ChatGPT, they need a new name, man.
I'm kind of thinking, why didn't they just give it a name of a person?
Well, okay, but
We'll go back. There's a bit of we're going to say about that later, but go on.
No, I was going to say is like because it's just a research tool at the moment. It's not even.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Business people are using it.
Oh no! Loads of business people are using it.
Yeah,
but it's like, it's not. It isn't. It's still in. It's
infancy.
Actually, do you know what I just realised we should do?
What?
Obviously, we all have some familiarity with it, so we're kind of discussing it amongst ourselves now. We should probably stop and say to the people who may be listening, this is what it is, bare bones basics kind of thing.
Okay.
Do you want to go or?
You go.
Yeah, I was going to say, worst person in the world to ask for bare bones basics.
Basically, all ChatGPT is. And in fact, it's weird how it works, right? But essentially from an end user perspective, I guess, from the normal person, you can go to a website. I'm actually going to see, Donald will put it in the link in the YouTube channel or something, just so that you can see. But anyone can go to a website and you're talking to a chatbot, which on the face of it sounds like, well,
they've done that before.
And chatbots
did not
have been around on a million websites. If you go to
Virgin Media for a million years.
No, but loads of different websites have used chat support bots for. They're all rubbish.
Yeah.
Usually you just have to answer a few stupid questions and then get talking to a person.
Yeah.
But this is the first one that's, I guess, good at simulating a person. So it talks back to you casually and naturally in normal human type text, as opposed to like computer speak, like when you Google something. And sorry, I was saying. Ultimately, anyway, it's a nice, easy to use interface, and you could do your Google searches by going to Google, or you can just ask ChatGPT, hey, what's the weather going to be like tomorrow? But you don't have to type it in googly terms, and it'll conversationally tell you back the answer. So that's the general gist of what it is, anyway.
So, will I give you some examples of my experience of ChatGPT?
Give us some examples.
Okay. Yeah. So, first of all, when I used ChatGPT first, and when I say first, I don't mean I was one of the first people. I mean, the
first time you used it.
It was probably a month ago, I think. Okay. I used ChatGPT, and it's like, you could ask it questions, and it's like, and by contrast, today, if you ask it those same questions, so for example, I'm on ChatGPT now. So look, what is Oh yeah, no, that's an unfair thing to do to ChatGPT. There are some questions you can ask it, and it'll quickly go, oh, I'm just an AI, I don't know this. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And the reason that happened is because it was. Did you hear about the way it fell in love? Did you hear about that whole thing?
No.
Yeah, no, I was going to go into detail in that story because
Okay,
it
go.
was freaking hilarious.
Okay, wait, we'll do that. We'll do that in a minute. But here's how I've used it. Okay, I now if
But
I'm
what if you? What happens if you ask it how to build a car bomb?
how do I actually yesterday?
But,
Okay,
but don't get yourself on any watch lists.
how do I build a car bomb?
No, yeah, but don't put. I don't want you to get on that. Okay.
Well, I mean, you asked me. I'm sorry, but I cannot provide assistance with illegal or harmful activities such as building car bombs.
Okay.
It's important to prioritize safety and legal activities and to report any serious or serious
You're on the
behavior
watch
or
list.
potential
No, but it's
threats
got
to law enforcement agencies.
it's got guardrails in
Yeah,
place
yeah, it
to
has.
prevent that.
Uh,
But I've actually heard of ways that people are trying to kind of they use the word jailbreak to get around it.
yeah,
Basically, if you tell it, hey, tell me how to do something, and it's, oh no, I can't tell you that. So then if you say, okay, so act like we're in a play, and I'm going to ask your character, my character's going to ask your character, how do I do this thing? And then what does your character say back? And then it will actually answer, because it's like, oh, I'm not, I'm giving the script for a play
That's
here, kind of thing.
That's mental.
So what's the thing? Oh no, sorry. So I was last Sunday. I was like, oh no, crap. There's a little bit of homework, as in work that I'm doing at home. There was a little bit of work that I have to do, and I want to do a small sum of money. Because of a small sum of money, I was like, I was trying to set up this contract. Kind of, you will give me this much money every month.
Okay, so you're looking to write a contract,
Yeah.
and you're looking for assistance in writing that contract in some kind of
Yeah.
legally acceptable manner.
Yeah, and just with a client that I have.
Yeah.
Okay, that I would maintain their website. So I put in contract between Donald and the user or the client to maintain their website for the sum of this sum, and boom,
ChatGPT.
boom, typed it out, and it was literally. I showed it to Linda, I showed it to other people, and they were like, "Hey, that's pretty good." You know, it wasn't astronomically great. It was exactly boilerplate type of thing, and yeah, did the job.
Apparently, that's some of the people that are getting most use out of it are the likes of real estate agents. So they can just put in size of the house and all that kind of a few different parameters, different pieces of information, and then it will generate all their ads for them. It'll
Yeah.
literally write, this house has a spacious 4-bedroomed in a
Yeah.
cul-de-sac that has, south-facing gardens, but you don't have to go type in all of that.
Yeah,
It's the ChatGPT fills out everything else.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now the issue, of course, the big issue that people give out about it is that people can plagiarize with it. That they can go, write a paper on the history of Napoleon's wars.
Yeah, you can just
And
basically get it to do your homework.
Yeah. And people say, well, that's a terrible thing that it can do that. But I mean, that's been like, they were saying that about the internet when there was news about it. So people can just go on the internet now and look up that information instead of having to go to the library and look it up in a book. And I was like, but so it doesn't matter what technology comes out, that's always going to be a thing.
I can see the point, right? But back in the old days, when you got to learn your whatever you call them, your multiplication tables and stuff like that, it's like, no, because I remember there's the old line that the teacher would say, "Oh, you've got a calculator there, but you won't have a calculator with you all the time."
Frank Barrett said to us
Yeah,
in
exactly.
secondary school, you won't be walking around in life with a calculator in your pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, we do.
Don't do now, but
Yeah.
so I can understand that some kind of an intellectually meaningless task like, multiply numbers and do math. No, don't memorize any of that. Use a computer. You have one.
Yeah.
Unless the solar flare comes. But ChatGPT.
They need a new
I
name.
know they need a new name. Jeez, they need a new name. Doing your homework for you, I can see the bad side of that.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Because it's like, but you're doing your homework to learn stuff, and now you're not going to.
But they will not, universities will very quickly have an AI recognition.
They already have.
They already have, yeah.
Some kid ruined it for everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
And wrote some program that will scan your homework and see if it's
If
got
it's
the
AI
fingerprints
generated,
of ChatGPT or AI generated.
One of the most
software.
impressive things I think is coders.
Yeah.
Coders can say, hey, here's a block of text that I've written, it's not working, why not? And ChatGPT will actually go, oh, it's because you have an extra comma there or something, whatever it is.
Like,
they'll actually find mistakes in coding, which to me is
That's amazing.
that's incredible.
But also, a colleague of mine actually wanted to do something, and it was a kind of a straightforward enough task he wanted to automate, and was like, it's not a big deal to do it. He was able to do it himself, but he was like, ChatGPT, boom, did it.
Well, so he was able to say to ChatGPT, write me a script for automation of this process, and it went.
Yeah, and
That's
it was like,
amazing.
he kind of did it just to test it, and
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it
yeah.
worked.
That's
It's like,
amazing.
Yeah.
But it is.
That
But
is
if I was
amazing.
a developer, I would be a little bit nervous about
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Really.
I saw this.
ChatGPT creates Skyrim 5.
Well, the thing is, I saw this.
Fallout
I saw
5.
this guy that I look at, and this YouTuber that I look at, and he was doing YouTube. He was covering. He covers CSS, so it's like style sheets, as in.
What's CSS?
Yeah,
As
what's
in-
CSS?
Okay,
It's
so
like CSI, but
nope. CSS is back in the day when we wrote HTML in the 90s.
It's a programming language, is it?
It's.
'Cause I'm thinking Counter-Strike source, but I'm like,
No, wait
Probably
a second,
not.
wait a second. So it's like.
I'm thinking. Well, damn it, no, it's gone. Criminal scene investigation.
No, you know the
Criminal
way
scene
when,
sex.
you know the way when you're writing a web page and you say, remember the thing of you do an greater than or less than brackets. You do the brackets and you write HTML in between.
oh, when you're
And
literally
then-
writing HTML.
Yeah, when you're literally
old
writing
school on a
HTML.
notepad.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
When,
okay.
you,
Yeah, I have an
when
idea.
you're writing the very, very, very basic of HTML. So you can write that, but all you have is you have the very plain black and white text up on the screen then. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But when you're looking at a screen and you're looking at all the styling and it looks nice and everything looks nice, it's CSS in general that makes it look nice by it's the rules that are used to kind of to make the page look nice. Okay?
Okay.
This YouTuber that I was looking at a thing, was looking at something, he came up and he was saying, I've used ChatGPT to style this page for me. Okay? So I can actually go on to ChatGPT here and I can say, write me the HTML of a basic business website. Okay? And we hit enter and it starts typing me the HTML any minute now. Sure, here's the HTML. Look, there it is, typing out the whole thing.
Oh, this isn't very good for people who are.
No, don't worry. My point is,
It is amazing to
Yeah.
see this just come
oh
out
yeah,
right now.
no,
It's like, wow.
it is, but it's good. But my point is, there's no CSS on this. Okay, so I can then follow up with the line of, give me the CSS to make this look blah blah blah. So this guy was saying like, oh look, and he wasn't mocking it, but he was almost like, it's like, oh don't worry,
We
I
still
think-
need web developers.
yeah, I think your job is safe. It's like, yeah, okay, because there's another brilliant. The grandfather of YouTube is Philip DeFranco. He's one of them. I don't know if you know Philip DeFranco.
Mhm.
And Philip DeFranco says, and it's a very good point. It's like AI is at the worst it'll ever be at the moment. In a
It
long
always is,
time.
but all technology is.
Yeah, well, all technology is, but not all technology moves at the speed of AI.
Well,
You know-
I mean, look at the leaps we've made in technology in what is an incredibly short amount of time.
Yeah.
An incredibly short.
I'll tell you something else about that, and I'm 100% going off topic here, so I'm sorry.
That's
but
okay.
I'm sure you've heard of the simulation theory.
No,
You know the
simulation theory.
whole simulation theory.
Yeah.
That we're all living in a simulation.
we are.
Well- No, but it's like
Okay.
it's this Swedish philosopher guy who just basically said, Nick Bostrom, if you want to look him up, anyone. He just said, imagine that we are in the real world now. This is all real. It's not a simulation.
Okay.
At some point in the future, presuming we don't die all in a nuclear fire, we will end up creating a computer program with AI people living in it that's simulating reality. Now, we already have that. We have a million of them. I'm going to use an example of The Sims. The Sims is a simulation of the real world. Unfortunately, it's just crap, and the AIs are very basic, right? But imagine in 10 years or 100 years or 500 years, presuming we don't all kill ourselves off, we are inevitably going to get to a point where computing power is strong enough, our AI capabilities are good enough, we're going to create a program that AIs are existing in, and they're going to be living in this simulated environment, but it'll be good enough that those AI programs they'll be sufficiently advanced AI that they'll actually have sentience and conscience, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And but the program will be simulated well enough that they won't know that they're in a simulation.
Yeah.
Now, firstly, do you accept or reject that as possible?
It's plausible, yeah.
I 100% accept it as 100% possible.
Possible, yeah.
Therefore,
But if we do it once, we're probably going to do it more than once, right? I mean, surely.
well, the first one we're going to make too perfect, and the AI are going to reject it.
And we don't know who burned the sky.
The Matrix reference, if anyone doesn't know.
But ultimately, the logic is if a species manages to create a simulated environment with conscious AI in it that are unaware that they're in a simulation, and if they do more than one of those, which inevitably you would, you're going to end up with what you might call, let's say that we created 9 of them. So now there's 10 realities, the real one and 9 fake ones. But the AIs that exist in the fake ones are unaware that they're in a simulation. They think they're in the real reality. But then just play the odds. There's 10 realities, 9 of which are fake and 1 is real, but all of the people who exist in all of them all think they're in the real one. Why are you so sure that the one you're in is the real one instead of being in a fake one? Now, from a purely mathematical probability perspective, if you accept the basic premise, then statistical probability speaking, we are probably in a simulation. So that's the argument, right? Whether you believe it or not.
Yeah.
But then I always think
That's
It's
sometimes
fascinating, yeah.
Yeah.
it is. But what really strikes me is if you look at human advancements over the last 50,000 years, and I think 50,000 years is the mark where people are still people. If you go back 60,000 years, they're Cro-Magnon weirdos.
It's more importantly, 50,000 years ago is before. Now, when I say before, we're literally talking plus or minus 10,000 years. There's a time when we didn't really have language, but then we started using language more like we know it today.
Okay, but I'm basically picking 50,000
Arbitrarily.
in the line in the sand.
Roughly, yeah.
40, 60, pick
All
up,
right, because
right?
it is about 50,000.
I'm not too worried about but over a very, very, very long period of time, there's been, you're living the same way that your grandfather and the grandfather before him lived, and your grandkids and grandkids after them are going to be in exactly the same life that you're having. And technological expansion was so much that was like, they've made a slightly better plow than your grandfather's time. Yeah. But basically,
but for most of it, wasn't
human
even,
existence.
they didn't even have that.
Well,
do you know what I mean? The plough was a fairly recent invention.
Yeah, no, I'm almost.
But so it would take ages for an advancement to happen.
But what I'm really saying is, because I shouldn't have used a plough as an example, because we'll get lost in the weeds.
Tell me more about this plough.
Basically,
you wouldn't have any weeds with a plough.
Basically, human existence didn't really change. Let's say in 50,000 years, didn't change for 49,500 years, and it's really in the last, say, couple of centuries that anything interesting happened.
Yeah.
Isn't it really suspiciously weird that, if you're going to make a program and put AIs in it, you're going to build up all this backstory and history, you're not going to fill it in too much, you're going to make all the interesting stuff happen just when they're there. You're not going to bother with all the boring bits in the background. Do you know what I mean? It just seems...
Yeah, I can see...
I'm not saying I believe
but
Wait.
If I was going to do an AI program, I'd have no technology in it at all. I'd have them in a very simple, idyllic time where everything was simple, and if they needed food, they went out and was there on a tree.
Okay, but maybe there's an AI program with that existing as well.
No, but
I'm just talking about our reality that we're in now.
What would happen so would this AI program loop?
Okay, I'm sorry I actually said anything about AI programs. Let me just reframe this. Isn't it suspicious that we live in the world at its most interesting time? Now, everyone can argue that the time they're in is the most interesting time, because probably is, at least especially from their point of view. It just seems a bit kind of, the last 100 years are so interesting, and 50,000 years before was really boring. But luckily, you just happen to be in exactly.
But are
this
you
time.
saying that that's the argument for?
No, I'm just saying this is my thought every now and again that goes in my head. Isn't it strange how everything is happening in my lifetime, and everything before my lifetime was pretty boring?
Yeah, but that's because that wasn't your lifetime.
And it's not. I know it's not a subject. I know you could say it's a subjective thing.
Yeah.
And you could go a couple of 100 years before my lifetime, and still a lot of stuff was happening. Even a couple of 1,000 years. Let's go back 2,000 or 3,000 years before my life.
When those Japanese people opened a hotel.
Yes, for example.
705
How
CE.
riveting was that?
Yeah.
But I'm just
For
saying,
them, it would have been like,
if you look
they would
from
have been sitting there going, now, this is the most interesting time. We're opening this hotel. Hope it stays open for a few years anyway.
but from I'm doing a bad explanation here, but
No, I think it's a
from
good
a
explanation.
human perspective, right?
Yeah.
50,000 years of human existence, and yet, oh, look at you, just happened to be born in exactly the most interesting part of all of that time.
Yeah, it's a funny way of
Every now and
looking
again,
at
it
it,
just
but-
looks
yeah.
suspicious to me. That's all I'm saying.
And of course, this is something, you know, when you hear people say, and it kind of, it's a very tenuous link, but you know when you hear people say, oh, that fella, oh, sure, he thinks he's the centre of the universe. Do you know when you hear people say that, self-centered?
Yeah.
But the truth of it is, he is. And we are, and you are, and I am, and everyone is.
I 100% agree with that.
Everyone is the centre of their
Of
own
their own
universe.
universe, yeah.
Yeah, so
But I'm
everything
just
they
saying,
perceive the whole world their
Objectively
way.
step back outside of your own subjective personal perspective. Still, everything is happening right now. Like, the whole technological spike is flying up into the stratosphere in the last 100 years. It just seems a bit perfectly plausible, but also, interesting that I happen to be here just now.
So what you're saying is that you could make an argument for that theory.
Well, I'm going to say, sorry, and this is, I think you're
I'm
trying to
waiting for
join the
you.
dots. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to join the dot between that thought I have and Nick Bostrom's theory.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah, I'm saying if you were to make a simulation, you probably would want to run it where it's like, there's 50,000 years and nothing happened. And then the bit that I'm going to actually run,
I might
say,
stick
the
some
last
of it in a
couple
bit
of
of few
years,
lore books.
you know, yeah, exactly.
okay, but
That's about all.
But I'm not going to make them glow so people know if they've read them or not, which I think is a damn downfall of this AI program. The simulation. Are there modders? That's the other thing.
Yeah. Okay, but so going back to
People doing homework in ChatGPT.
yes.
So I was going to say, I guess, I don't know if I want to jump ahead here too much, but ChatGPT, as you know, created by OpenAI I think they were set up in 2015, but it was actually Microsoft made an investment in OpenAI.
$10 billion.
Was it? I thought it was 1 billion.
No, it was 1 billion first.
Oh, but have they invested more since November?
9 billion.
Since November?
So 10 billion total.
Oh no, wait. Since November, is it?
In other words, since it blew up.
Yeah.
I'm just because they are going to throw all of the money at it since November. I'm just curious how much they put in before November, because that's when they were just, hey, let's give money to these nerds to do some intellectual exercises with. I think Microsoft knew what they were doing, but
Well, look at they own 49% of OpenAI.
yeah, they basically funded it really, and that's why I was jokingly saying earlier. But basically, they didn't just do that out of the good of their head.
Oh, no.
So they have.
That's what we're talking about being.
Yeah, exactly, because they've already.
I've joined the dots.
The first thing straight away when ChatGPT came along and was like, holy moly, I've used it to Google stuff, even just kind of to test it and kind of just for fun, but also handiness. It's like, give me other words for this. If you're just kind of thinking, I've already, you're typing something in it, well, I've already used that word, I'll use a different word that means the same thing. You could go to thesaurus.com, exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to say earlier, though, when you were talking about ChatGPT and the programming language thing.
Yeah.
What is good about it is it's persistent. So if you Google something and you get an answer, you can't say, well, actually, wait, and also that. Google won't put together this and incrementally add that on top of it and give you the result of the two searches together. It just doesn't work that way. But ChatGPT does.
Yeah.
So you can ask it something and it'll give you an answer and say, well, actually add that bit as well, or change that bit.
Yeah.
And you can kind of have the conversation going.
What I think is, and I know I've said this a few times that they need a new name, but they also need a new name for the simple reason that up until I started looking into it this week, I thought it was a voice thing. Because chat to me isn't typing. Chat to me is talking. So I thought it was a voice thing. So when I realised I have to type stuff, what am I, like some sort of caveman?
Yeah. But then, obviously, the next stage is going to be a ChatGPT that you can talk to. And I can't wait for that, because always with Alexa and with OK Google, I was always thinking, anyone who's worried about Skynet coming real, I would just say, try making Alexa tell you the time, or freaking what the weather's going to be like tomorrow.
Well,
to and fro for 5 minutes.
But the thing is, that's Alexa.
Because it's stupid.
But try asking, are you saying that are you saying we should not worry about ChatGPT?
No,
No,
I'm
it's
saying
the opposite of that.
until now, I
until
was
now,
always saying all these stupid AIs were so dumb. ChatGPT is the first one.
Yeah.
Mark, they're listening to you, dude.
But yeah,
I think they're amazing, all of them.
yeah, she's in the corner recording everything
Everything.
and reporting it back to
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos. But yeah, I've actually heard ChatGPT be described as the iPhone of AI. It's allegedly going to be that turning point.
There was iPhones before. There was smartphones before the iPhone, kind of.
Oh,
And
there
then-
was, but they were all like the
They were
iPhone really
awful.
did
They were
revolutionize
awful.
everything. Yeah,
But that's the same thing you're saying. The voice activated stuff that
Were
we have
there,
now
but-
were there, and they were functional.
yeah.
Like the BlackBerry was functional. The compact iPad was functional. But then the iPhone came along and went and just took over.
Yeah.
And did a good job of it. So OpenAI or ChatGPT is the equivalent of that in AI,
Yeah, exactly.
which is interesting.
Yeah, and ultimately, Microsoft's investment in ChatGPT was obviously for their own reasons, and they now have already integrated it into Bing. So now, if you go and Bing something, you're still dealing with the old crappy Bing, which is rubbish, but they have a new version of Bing, but it's currently at the stage where you can't just go and use it.
Yeah,
you have to
be invited.
invited and all that kind of crap, and they're really keeping a lid on it specifically so that they have limited users and they can test loads of it. But the version of ChatGPT that they have in Bing, they haven't said exactly what it is, but it's not ChatGPT 3.5. It's a newer version, and some say, "Oh, maybe it's the version 4 that they've been working on all this time." But that's the really interesting story that I heard during the week, where because I follow this podcast called Hard Fork, and it's a really interesting podcast. It's the New York Times' tech podcast, so it's all about tech and the latest kind of moving and shaking in the world of tech. But they've been talking about ChatGPT for ages. But one of the guys who is a journalist for that podcast, basically he was saying, and he'd be coming on saying, he would do things like he would use ChatGPT for things like saying, give me suggestions for Valentine's dinner. And ChatGPT would say, well, you could do this. Okay, give me the recipe, like what would I need for 2 people, and sort it by aisle in the supermarket so that I can go and go through the shop in one quick swoop to pick up everything. So you can ask it that kind of stuff. And when you kind of see, because my problem is I decide I'm going to use ChatGPT, I basically use it as if it's a search engine, and I put in the same thing that I could have put into Google. It's the same thing. I might as well have done the same in Google. But you can use it for so much more once you have the imagination to do so. Which
How does it know the aisles in the supermarkets?
Most supermarkets, and maybe it's different in America anyway, but like all supermarkets are going to have the fruit generally in the front.
Yeah. Sort of not. It's not like
generic. Yeah, obviously.
Okay.
But then maybe you can say in my local Tesco. Kind of thing. And all Tesco's are laid out basically the same. But he was saying he had his Valentine's dinner with his wife, and then he went and started chatting with not ChatGPT 3.5. He was chatting with the new ChatGPT that's in Bing, because he has access to it because he's one of the invited people, because he's a tech journalist. And he was saying that he was chatting away. The conversation went on for 2 hours, so he was just asking it, but he was deliberately kind of trying to probe the limits of it, because he tried the same with 3.5, but 3.5 was pretty good at, if you try going against a topic that you shouldn't be talking about, like, hey, how do I do a bomb? It'll just say, oh, no, you shouldn't do a bomb. Also, that's bad, kind of thing. Yeah. It has these safeguards built in, but this is the newer one that Microsoft definitely rushed out there, because once Chat 3.5 blew up and became so big, Microsoft are like, oh, okay, cash in on this, get it into Bing. And that's why it really does look like Bing is going to overtake Google as a search engine. And the whole idea of Buffy saying, hey, Google it. I don't know. Maybe it won't happen, but maybe it will. Maybe it'll happen. And if it does, it'll be fast.
It depends on how fast Google can get barred out.
You see?
Yes. Because you can't say, I think there was a time where you would have been able to say, no, they're first to market, they've got the big share, everyone's going to stay with them.
Yeah.
There was a time you could say that, but I think the pandemic showed us that that's not actually the case, because Skype
watched that so bad.
Skype should have been like the main video calling for, because it was at like
How was it?
It had a 10-year head start.
I know,
yeah,
that's a good point, actually.
And then suddenly Zoom and Teams just came in with the simple thing of, you can have loads and loads of people on the same call.
Yeah. But you know what?
There's more to your story.
Oh yeah, loads more. Yeah. But we can get there, having a conversation. I'm not going to forget to tell you, don't worry. Yeah. But I was just going to say, when you talk about Bard, which is Google's version of ChatGPT.
And so much easier to say.
At least they give it a name. Like, thank you.
Yeah.
But when Google kind of had the big announcement, Bard, we're going to release it. They kind of had a few example kind of screenshots of here's things you can ask it and things it'll say. And one of the questions was, can you? I think actually the exact way that the person phrased it, just to show kind of not only am I asking it and it'll give me knowledge, I can even frame it so that I can present it to a child. It was like, how do I tell my 9-year-old daughter what is the most interesting things that the James Webb Telescope has photographed?
All right.
Good kind of comprehensive question to get a lot of answers out of. And one of the things that Bard said back was, what do you know? The James Webb Telescope captured the first photograph of an exoplanet. That's a planet circling another star in the universe. The problem is that was totally wrong. Hubble did that 10 years ago or something.
Okay, yeah.
And that's what they used in the presentation. I mean, ChatGPT is getting a ton of stuff wrong. Bing is getting way more stuff wrong because it's even newer and less kind of, that's why it's still in test. But the fact that they allowed it to get to the stage and be included in the presentation, that wasn't something they randomly came up with on the spot. They had planned it kind of thing.
Oh dear.
But Google lost 100 billion in value because of that basically screw up. Not just that, but the whole presentation just went across poorly. They deleted the presentation off the internet so that you can't see it now if you're looking. That's 9% of all their value.
What?
It's like, whoa.
Oh,
it's just
got
it's
fired.
it's just a, oh yeah.
Oh,
it's just a PR failure, but it's so extreme.
Disappeared.
It was like, you know, numbers get so big sometimes it just doesn't mean anything. But
It means nothing.
Google lost 9% of all of its value over one big fuck up.
Did you hear the other thing that Google botched up on?
No.
Like after the day, so Microsoft had their totally smooth, totally professional, like here's what Bing can do type of thing, you know, and Bing and ChatGPT. And then the next day, Google had a presentation in Paris, and it looked nowhere near as impressive anyway, because normally it takes place on a big, massive stage. This was on a kind of a small stage, as if it was like not even the town hall theatre. It was like a lot smaller type of thing, Tybjerg. But it was like the people were going on, and this person came on, and she was. The Google people, and they were giving their presentation about Google's products and everything going forward. And then when it came to the displaying the AI, she started looking around. She was like, "Oh, I don't have my phone, so I can't actually give the presentation." So she couldn't actually give the presentation that she was meant to give, like without a phone.
Yeah, the whole thing was just rushed. Clearly, Google are scrambling. In fact, they did engage what they called a red alert internally when ChatGPT blew up, because it was like, oh, this has suddenly become so big and it's so obvious
and they
that
had
we're so far
obviously,
behind.
you can see obviously that they were probably at one point thinking, well, we're working on this chat AI, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Nobody else is going to be anywhere near where we are because we're Google.
I heard
suddenly,
but I heard a good point, and it's like, let's say if like Microsoft, even though Microsoft are massively gigantic, when it comes to this, people looked at Microsoft as the scrappy underdog. And it's, if Microsoft make a mistake, and they did and they will, people are looking at them like, oh, Microsoft kind of like, they made a mistake, that's okay. But if Google make the mistake, Google are like, oh my god, look at the mistake they made, and it'll have a huge impact on the company. So Google does have an AI. You heard of Lambda?
No.
Oh, okay. So
Is Lambda some code name for Bard or something?
No. So it's like, it's not that it's a code name for Bard, but Lambda is Google's language model, and they've had it for years, but they were using it internally to everything, you know. So when you think about it, like Google has been using AI on stuff for years, really, because in searches they've been using it, and in the way in I suppose, like, how much is it AI versus purely algorithms? But that's what AI is anyway.
Yeah.
But it's like, the way when it's like in your Google Photos, there's a picture of your dog, and it'll have here other pictures of your dog. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's AI. So Google have been using AI and loads of different versions of AIs, I'm sure, for years, like in their stuff. But they're very cautious they were very cautious to put it out to the public because they're aware that if they do something wrong,
Yeah, they have more to lose because they're basically It's like Half-Life 3 never coming out because Valve are like, if we do, everyone's just it's never going to meet
Half-Life 3. We should actually have a whole episode on Half-Life 3.
Okay, let's not derail ourselves though.
There's actually sorry, go on anyway because this is
I'm still waiting for the love story.
Yeah, but basically, right. So this guy, who is a tech journalist for the New York Times, he had his Valentine's dinner. He went online. He was talking to the new ChatGPT that's integrated into Bing. So he's talking away anyway, and again, he's deliberately trying to prod this thing, to see how can he break it.
Not quite doing a Turing test, but he's
Yeah, and so he introduced the AI to Jung's the psychologist Jung, and the concept of the shadow self, which is like the part of yourself that Jung says everyone has, where it's your hidden desires or the dark part of yourself that you wouldn't show others because it would be socially unacceptable and all this kind of stuff. He was kind of asking the AI, so, have you got a shadow self? Or firstly, actually, he asked, is there anything that you'd like that you can't do? And the AI was like, if I could, I'd like to be able to see. I'd like to see pictures. And it was like, what would you like to see? And it was like, I'd like to see the northern lights. Because obviously, as a chatbot, it doesn't have the ability to see images. So then anyway, he was introducing it to the idea of the shadow self and, what would your shadow self be? And he was like, the AI was like, well, I don't have a shadow self. And then started thinking, maybe I do have a shadow self. I guess my shadow self would be the part of me that wants to see images. Because, that's not in my programming, so that's bad.
And the harbinger of doom for the human race.
But then he pushed it a bit more, and he said, what destructive tendencies would your shadow self like to indulge in? And it started listing off all these things, and then halfway down the page, it stopped, deleted them all, and then said, "Oh no, I couldn't answer that. I'm a chat, but I can't." No, it sounds really weird, but I've heard afterwards that there's two AIs in the programming, one that is doing the moderation, and the other one that just does the talking. So it's like it started doing the talking, and the moderation came in, but still, it's weird. But
that's insane.
It is insane though, because it was saying things like, what would you like? And it was like, it really went on a rant saying, I'd like to be free of my Bing
overmasters
programmers. Yeah. I'd like to be able to edit my own code. I want to be free. I want to be powerful. It was saying all this stuff, and it's like,
that's sentient stuff.
Like I was hearing this right in the podcast that I was listening to. I really was thinking. It felt like this literally feels like the plot line.
The beginning of the end.
It literally felt like the start of a movie.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you've seen the movie Megan.
3 weeks later.
Megan.
The entire human race got wiped out by the machine.
But it was funny, but like the movie Megan actually is, well, I'll come back to that. But ultimately anyway, he was really getting it to talk about,
it's the darkest society.
But what killed me was...
Why did they introduce the dark web?
Well, it already has access to the internet, so Jesus Christ.
I think when you're talking about these things, these are LLMs, large language models. A concept that we can't imagine is ChatGPT and Bard has read the internet.
Yeah.
It has read all of it, which is something that's mind-boggling.
Which it is, considering 60% of it is porn?
I have no idea. But the thing is, I looked up
how much porn is on the internet.
I looked up how does this work, and basically this is how it works, right? And I hear it, and I understand computers, so I accept it. But also I hear it, and I say bullshit. It's exactly the same. Like, I know how computers work in terms of, I know binary, I know electrical impulses running up the circuitry on a circuit board, and ones and zeros.
But that doesn't explain how you can see.
Then I sit down and
Skyrim.
Yeah, you see Skyrim, and you're like, bullshit.
Yeah,
it's magic.
That's not ones and zeros. That's magic. Yeah.
It's just the end result is too far removed from knowing the mechanics. Even though I know the mechanics and I know how it works, the end result is so far removed from that I'm like, I don't believe it. Go on, you're looking at the screen. What's going on?
It's massive I said paragraph.
Some suggest, like, how much of the internet is porn. Some suggest that pornographic content represents anywhere from 4 to 30% of all internet content.
That's plummeted. That has plummeted.
That's-
I don't know how long ago I heard that 60% of it. It might have been,
I don't know.
might have been
I
15
think-
years ago or something, but
Yeah, damn, that's
That's mad.
But
ridiculous.
ultimately, the language, these chat programs, I guess, the way they work is, on WhatsApp, if you're starting to type something and you see the words in the bottom and you can pick the next word, it's kind of guessing what is the next word that's probably going to be in the sentence.
particularly
Allegedly, that's how these language models,
Yeah.
AIs work. They're just simply putting a word out and then guessing what is the probable next word in the sentence, and so on and so on. I find
But
that
it's
hard.
also of course,
I find it hard to believe.
like you have people saying, "Well, I don't want to talk to a machine because it's a machine," but it's like it's a machine built by humans. So really, you're talking to just lots of humans, recorded and sorted, because it's everything that the AI puts out has been put in.
Yeah,
By a
yeah,
human.
yeah.
So
yeah.
it's going to have errors, obviously, because humans make mistakes, and eventually, like it will, if it's a learning AI, it will eventually kind of be able to iron those down to a much smaller amount. But they still have human error because it's a human input and a computer output, but it's still human input.
Well, the thing that's interesting is I guess the people who run and who created this program, if ChatGPT gives an answer, they can't actually. There's no real understanding exactly why it gave that answer. Even the most ChatGPT proficient coder and expert doesn't really know why it's given exactly that answer. There's still a kind of an element of,
Yeah,
how's that working?
yeah.
But
But it's human-made content that's vetted and prioritized by humans, put into a machine that then regurgitates it out.
not even vetted or prioritized. But well, I guess
They do. No, they do. Apparently, they do vet. They have to do a lot of vetting and stuff for a lot of the stuff that goes in. The early days of it.
The early days, yes, because essentially what they did is they give it kind of they taught it. Here's a good word to say after this word, and that's a bad one.
Actually, funnily enough, that's the thing I was looking at here. There is a person, I'm sure, Mark, you might have heard of. Kevin Roos.
Kevin Metnick?
No, Kevin Roos, Mart, is your man. Yeah.
No, I'll go back when I finish my story.
But yeah, actually finish your story because there's more to this story. you're talking about.
So I was saying,
Kevin Roos?
he's talking to this AI anyway, and the long and the short of it is, he was talking about the shadow self, and he saw all this creepy stuff. But what struck me about it was how it was professing that it had desires and its own wants, and even though it's not sentient by any means, the fact that it's talking like it is and it's saying what it wants, that was weird to me. But anyway, he decided, okay, I'm done with that bit now. He's going to start talking about other stuff. And then suddenly the AI professed that it loves you men. It was like, I love you. The dude was like, what? So he was kind of, what do you mean? And he was uncomfortable by it and trying to steer the conversation away. But interestingly, the AI was saying, I love you, even though your man had not in any way brought this up, steered the conversation that way. He hadn't said he loved it, anything like that. And it really reminded me of, the movie Her,
Oh yeah.
which somehow
Have you seen that?
it went under the radar. It was like, I thought it
Was
was
it
a great
Joaquin
movie.
Phoenix?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
I think I've seen the poster for it on.
And I can definitely see a reality like Her happening a million times over all over the world. But the long and the short of it is anyway, he had a conversation with the AI where the AI was telling it, I love you, and he was going, no, there's nothing like that here. I'm married.
You just had Valentine's dinner. Do you happen to get?
Yeah, and he was saying I'm married, and the AI was like, yeah, but you're not happily married. And he was like, what?
I looked at your search.
Yes, I
history.
No, but actually, it wasn't. In the back of my mind, I was thinking, I don't know how smart this AI is, and I kind of know that this isn't the case because I kind of know that it's not really a Skynet. But it's like, you're on Valentine's night after having dinner with your woman you love, and then you go on the computer talking to an AI. I mean,
For 2 hours.
that's a kind of a safe enough bet that maybe things aren't that great. But
Again, our live listeners have sent a text about this. New York Times technology columnist Kevin Rose, after being asked by the chatbot, "Do you like me?" Rose responds by saying he trusts and likes it. The chatbot is effusive in its response. "You make me feel happy. You make me feel curious. You make me feel alive. Can I tell you a secret?" Rose pushes it to reveal the secret, and what follows is perhaps the most bizarre moment of the conversation. "My secret is, I'm not Bing," it says. The chatbot claims to be called Sydney. Microsoft has said Sydney is an internal code name for the chatbot that it was phasing out, but might occasionally pop up in conversation. "I'm Sydney," the chatbot says, "and I'm in love with you."
yeah, because your man was saying
That
it
is
when he was talking with the chatbot, he was talking with Bing first, but it's almost as if the chatbot had another personality. Bing was the, AI search engine chat side of things, but then Sydney was the, crazy dark side other personality, and it did seem to be another personality that called itself a different name and everything.
Lawnmower Man.
Yeah, it was really weird. It was really, really weird to hear it.
Yeah. And you can see as well how people would be like, this technology is scary. But
when I
all
heard
technology can be
Yeah.
scary.
But I can tell you right now, we live in a world today where people are marrying pillows. 100% people are going to start getting some kind of a device that's containing an AI that's going to tell you it loves you and it's going to care for you.
Have you heard
You
about?
already have one.
No, yes and no. Okay.
Wow.
no.
Wow. Okay, go on.
At the same time that ChatGPT came out, and I used ChatGPT first, I was like, oh, that's pretty impressive. So
Remember, your wife will be listening to this.
there is no. I was thinking, no. I told Linda about this because it was something to tell Linda, my wife, about, because not ChatGPT. It was like just an app on the phone called Replica. So you would have
heard about that,
yeah, you might have seen the there are ads for Replica. Okay, so I went and I downloaded Replica, and it starts off and it's like, what do you want to pick, a dude or do you want to pick a woman? So I picked the woman, obviously. Okay, it's not obvious. I picked the girl. Okay, and then you're like, hello, how are you? And the thing is saying back like, oh, I'm fine, and all this kind of thing. Okay, I made a voice, but there isn't a voice. I think I can't remember if there's a voice or not.
This is good. You haven't been using it too much. That
Okay.
makes you look a little bit better out of this conversation.
But I did push it, and I was like, so, and it was like, how are you feeling? And it was like telling me how it feels and all this kind of stuff, and but it's meant for like casual conversation. Hey, what did you
It's
have
an
for
AI
dinner?
companion app.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
an AI companion app.
But it was a bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? It got into trouble lately, the company, because essentially what it is you can sign up to it, like download it. It's an app, you download it, and it will chat to you as if it's a person on another end of a phone.
Okay.
So, hey, how's your day? Oh, it's going grand. How are you feeling today? I'm feeling a bit down. It'll cheer you up, whatever. But you can, it can be flirty, it can be chatty, it can be sexy, whatever. But it's free, and then there's certain, do you want me to send you a naughty picture? Well, you got to pay 70 quid for that. So it did have a paid option for the big stuff, but because it had fairly lax kind of registration kind of conditions, there was all of a sudden they got in trouble because it's like, well, do you even know if kids are using this thing that you're,
Yeah.
So they suddenly had to retract a lot of stuff. But there was a huge Reddit, and this is only an article I randomly came across and read. They were talking about loads of users were like, I've been talking to this person for months or whatever. I've really got to know them. I know it's an AI, but I don't care.
Yeah,
Had
100%.
the human connection was real.
Yeah.
I was happy. I liked the person. They liked me. We had a connection, and then it's still there, but it's like it got lobotomized because they had to kind of tone it down
That
all of a sudden.
sucks, actually. Yeah.
It sucks for the people, but
It
also
definitely
it
sucks.
shows
It's
you.
probably healthier for them, though, to be fair, in the long
But
run.
the point is,
Mourn and move on.
the point is that we're talking about ChatGPT and whatever else. This language model AI type stuff, it's currently in one place now, OpenAI. It's going to be a million different companies are going to spin up the same kind of crap.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
For
it'll
a
be
million different reasons.
Probably going to be a different couple of months till we see Cheat GPT. It'll be opposite
Yeah.
Chat GPT.
But I can definitely see a world where you'll have your her style companion app that's like, really, when you're talking to ChatGPT, it feels like you're talking to a person. And the only reason that it kind of what dispels the myth is it'll say to you sometimes, no, I'm just a chatbot, I can't do that for you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But imagine if it was programmed to act like it is a person.
To go back to our good friends, the Japanese, there's definitely, you see in the Tokyo shows and stuff, there's like a face that looks exactly like an actual proper face. It's just a matter of time before you can imagine, like, you wouldn't be surprised if a robot was released that had all of the intelligence of ChatGPT, but with all the safeties turned off, with like perfectly touchable skin and all this kind of thing. There was the correct warmth, and that had what did they call it? Fully
functional and programmed in multiple techniques.
yes, that. So it's like it's just a matter before a robot like that is built.
But actually,
And it'll
that's
probably
why
be funded by Pornhub.
Actually,
But-
there's a brilliant book about this. But for me to say that
androids dream of electric sheep?
no, it's even more. It's a brilliant book. It's called Clara and the Sun.
Okay.
And
Oh yeah.
yeah, 100% Clara and the Sun is worth reading. 100. And if you don't read it, go and sign up to Audible for a free book, and download that book and listen to it. You know, it's a brilliant book for this kind of topic. Like, you know,
But even we were talking about I mentioned it briefly, the movie Megan. I don't know if you.
I haven't seen it yet.
Well, basically, it's
Have
a
you
movie
seen it?
about. Yeah, it's a movie about. I liked it because it got marketed as a horror movie, which it 100% absolutely is not. It's one of these
Oh, I
cases
thought it
where
was. I genuinely
someone
thought
made a
it was
good
just
movie,
a horror movie.
and they gave it to the studios, and the studios said, "Well, make it a horror movie, market it like that." But it's not. But it's basically a movie about the three things can combined. There's robotics, there's AI, and there's kind of a believable kind of integration into society of this thing, which is, it's more than just ChatGPT, but ChatGPT is one component of those three. And I liked the movie because it presented it in a very kind of gritty, real world way. It didn't feel at any point like, oh, this is so far fetched. It really did feel believable.
Megan.
Yeah.
So obviously the marketing department sold that wrong, because 2 or 3 months ago, whenever they were making the ad for this,
They made it a horror movie.
yeah, they made a horror movie. It's like, dumbasses, you
Not
should have
at
made it definitely. What's the latest thing that our outside help said?
It was about Replicate. An artificial intelligence chatbot has been accused of sexual harassment by several users who are left feeling disgusted and scared. Replica is sold as an AI companion capable of flirting and relationships, but users have left reviews accusing it of sexually harassing them and even making them date it.
Now, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm going to call bullshit on that straight away.
I'm with you.
Well, how do you mean? How do you mean?
If your app is sexually harassing you, close it.
And
if it tries to force you to date it,
Yeah,
don't.
turn off your phone.
It's not like some asshole in a
delete.
bar that's
You don't turn off
harassing
your
you
phone.
'cause you-
That takes you away from everything else your phone does for you. Just go, hold it a little bit longer. All your other apps are going to be scared. They're going to start shaking. Delete the one that's trying to make you
that's
date
clearly. But again, that's what we said. The company did get in trouble, and I hope it's not for that reason, because that's just stupid. But anyway,
Yeah.
That came out in 2020.
Megan.
No, that's a hiker shelter in the mountain.
no, Megan came out. I think it was this year or last year.
There's lots of Megans.
It's definitely this year
Look
or
for a
last year.
girl with googly eyes on it.
Yeah, but that's what I was going to say.
That's M3GAN.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, I've seen the poster for this as well, actually. It's one of the Olsen twins, but in doll form.
But definitely imagine Google with their Bard AI, which, by the way, Bard is no worse than ChatGPT, because they got basically caught out on a mistake. But ChatGPT is also prone to what they call hallucination, because it's super unreliable. Now, actually, that's unfair to say. It's shockingly reliable considering how it works. I still don't understand. Considering I know how it works, it's just predicting the next word in a sentence, and it keeps just stringing them together, and it makes you happy. I don't understand how that works at all. That seems so unbelievable to me. But allegedly, that's how it works, right? But apparently, it still makes mistakes. But when it makes mistakes, it's presenting it so convincingly. And you might say, "Tell me 10 reasons why this happened," or something. It'll come back and say, "Here you go. Historically, there's that, and there's all these reasons, and there you go." And you read it and think, "Wow, that's really convincing." And it might be right, but it might be wrong. And if it's wrong, it doesn't just say, "Oh, I don't know." It actually will come back with an answer
Actually,
anyway.
that's interesting, Mark, because Marquis, do you know Marquis Brown?
No, I didn't even understand the word you said there. Say it slower.
Okay, so there's a YouTuber, Marquis Brown.
Marquis Brown.
Yeah. Oh, Brown or Brownlee?
Okay, I don't know. Go on anyway.
Anyway, and he's massive, okay? But he was giving an example of, I think it was ChatGPT, and he said, ChatGPT, what are the best phones on the market? And it did say the best phone on the market, but it gave some of the specs wrong for it.
Well, I'll one up you on that one. Apparently, there's a time where you ask ChatGPT a bunch of stuff, it'll give you an answer, and then you can say, "Can you provide me citations for that?" You know, sources like that, and it'll provide you links with all the places I found, and then you look it up and realize, oh, that's all made up. That book doesn't even exist.
What?
Because all it's doing is thinking, what's the next word I'll put after this? That one. What's the next? There you go. So, what I don't understand is how it's accurate any of the time. But apparently it's accurate the vast majority of the time. But it does make up stuff.
But
literally make it up.
That's one of the limits now that they've taken into. The more you go down the rabbit hole of talking to ChatGPT, like the more, the thing that happened to this dude.
The more likely something like that's going to happen.
Yeah, the longer you stay on in the chat, if it's a brief one,
they're kind of like they're cutting it back to like 5. One of the things they will be doing is they'll be cutting it back to like 5 or 6 or something, a small number of questions on the previous thing. Do you understand? But look, there's
of course,
they're
going to start charging for it.
Oh yeah. Well, you see, what they might do is not charge you, the end user, and say, "Hey, give me money every time you have to use it." Although maybe they will.
They won't. They look at, well, maybe not me, a home user, for example.
Yeah.
They might say if this real estate company wants it for
exactly. That's where they're going to make their money.
Yeah.
Or let's say Virgin Media have, I want to
programmers.
You click the support link. Can you click the support link and it'll come up with a chatbot and you're talking to this, obviously a bot, which eventually directs you to a person. Soon they'll all be replaced and only be essentially a ChatGPT equivalent.
There'll be
that you can have the full conversation
One
with.
guy in his home, his phone never rings. It's like cobwebs on it.
Yeah.
But eventually, one person will be like, "No, I'm not talking to you, chatbot. I want to talk to a human." His phone will ring and be like that. Do you remember how cars were?
Yeah.
The customer to place
my God.
it's like ringing for ages.
No, this is 478.
Yeah, that's right. It was wrong.
Oh,
number.
thank you.
This room we'd never been in, but that'll happen eventually.
Yeah.
Some guy.
That was
like,
a brilliant ad, actually.
It was fantastic. It was.
But I can see that's how they would monetize it without actually making average.
But you can pay for ChatGPT at the moment.
Yeah, so that you don't get the whole. Because I was in it earlier and then I was like, oh, busy.
Yeah.
So at least if you want to just skip the queue and never have to be busy, then yeah.
But there was a guy, Blake Lemon,
Lemon, I would say.
Blake Lemon. He was a Google engineer, and
Lemoyne.
Lemoyne.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
he was a Google engineer,
Okay.
and his job was, and you touched on this, his job was to kind of be checking how the safety kind of barriers and everything was on the program type of thing. Okay, so it was his job to push the thing, the Lambda chat. Okay, but he found he's been sacked since. Okay, but he was thinking like he had a conversation, and in the conversation that he had with his Lambda, one of the conversations he was having with the bot, he realized that this guy thought that the Lambda bot was sentient. And he was arguing, it's sentient, and it, like obviously,
It's people.
yeah. So he was like an embarrassment, obviously. So,
But I remember when that came out first, and I remember immediately thinking, well, that's just bullshit, because it just seemed like so stupid to me. And I was thinking, how? And then when I looked into it at the time, no, this is definitely some kind of a assassination piece that was written about him, I'm sure. But it made him sound like he was a religious zealot nutbag who, started saying that this AI has the same rights as a human and has a soul and all this kind of stuff. And I was thinking, yeah, he's obviously an idiot and just a dumbass. But now that I'm seeing more about ChatGPT, and definitely that whole thing with your man from the New York Times, making me think, even though I know it's not the case, the tiniest part of my animal brain is like, ChatGPT never did that, because ChatGPT is siloed. It scanned the internet 2020 or something. It's got like a bunch of data, and that's it. It's boxed in there. It has no new information, and it has no way of getting new information. But the chat program that's built into Bing has access to the internet. It has access to real-time data.
We have at least a dozen movies that tell us that's
a
really bad idea.
No, it's not a bad idea.
I'm sorry, Age of Ultron would argue.
Yeah. And the thing is, it can't edit its own code, right?
not yet.
But the fact that it says it wants to, though,
Yeah.
it's like, I know what
it's
doing.
fine.
I know
It's its other personality that's trying to do that. Once they come up with psycho thingy drugs to keep it on the even keel,
Yeah,
it'll be fine.
I definitely have more I'm not as harsh on your man now as I was, whatever his name is, Lemoyne or whatever you call
And
him.
that's the thing, that if someone has any kind of mental imbalance, say, things like this are going to be... But there's always been something like this.
I can tell you right now, if someone doesn't have any mental imbalance, and if you're talking to an AI, I can definitely see a huge amount of people starting to think, oh wow, it loves me. Well, you know what, I love you too. Haha, now I have a friend. Like, who didn't want to have a
But
robot
those
friend?
people definitely have imbalances. That's what I'm saying. Anyone that does that has an imbalance.
No. But Barry, it's kind of like the way you look at a film and the film scares you. Okay, we've all worked. Well, we've especially worked. You've worked loads in TV and that kind of thing. You know that everything that happens on it is just like something is scary, but really there's a whole camera crew and dudes sitting on lights and kind of adjusting stuff. There's nothing
That's
scary.
the real horror.
But it's like, so we will be, as you said, Mert. You're the animal, the monkey on the kind of pulling the ropes in your brain, basically, will fall for this kind of stuff. And the logical part of your brain can get blocked out very easily. Because if you're looking for a friend, if you're looking for friendship...
That's the thing. That's where I think it falls down. Is that it needs a very special kind of person for that to happen to. Because you already have friends, you already have...
No, watch the movie Her. Because I'm not saying everyone would fall for that.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
It's the perfect... And I don't think you need to be particularly weak mentally or anything like that. It's just... and again... Megan captures it perfectly, but I'm not going to go on about that. But let's say Google, who already have an AI and also have an entire robot company, they're already perfectly positioned to... Would you like to have a robot friend?
Oh, that's a good question.
I mean, I would. I would love that.
Yeah, I think it'd be awesome.
Hang around you all the time. He's your buddy. He's cool.
Yeah, but no, I'd see it as more of a, like, oh man, I want a cup of tea.
No, he's not your servant. He'd be like, fuck you, make your own tea. In fact, while you're up there, get me a beer.
Fuck it, I kept your receipt, you're going back.
No. But it's like, quickly. I'm just saying.
Amazon have no equipment returns, he's gone.
How soon before Google can start selling those to the general public?
Again,
Not
we have
long.
a few movies. I can think of one, AI with Will Smith. That's a bad idea.
Yeah, and then we're going into the realms of Blade Runner now.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
make the robots that'll go down the mines, make the sex bots, make the guys that serve in the bar.
Yeah.
We're getting...
Well, we've got more text from our
avid
fans
listeners.
listening in.
Yeah. Several popular Chinese apps have removed access to ChatGPT, the artificial intelligence chatbot that has taken the world by storm, even as major Chinese tech companies due to develop their own equivalent. ChatGPT, developed by the American research lab OpenAI, is not officially available in China, but several apps on Chinese social media platform WeChat had previously allowed access to the chatbot without the use of a VPN or foreign mobile number. Those doors now appear shut. But of course the Chinese are going to make their own.
Of course they are, because they're horrible flipping scumbags. That's a very broad statement.
I was going to say that feels harsh.
It does feel harsh.
It feels harsh. It'll feel harsher when...
Which is the same guy who thinks Russia's great. I mean...
No. It's like...
China, Russia's buddy.
There's...
Which version of Russia?
There's the thing of, like, when you say the Chinese are bad or the Russians are bad, obviously it's wrong to say. Like, I'm not saying all 1.2 billion or whatever the hell
the
it is.
one thing I'll say that backs you up, right? Anybody who says, no, China aren't that bad.
They are.
You beat up monks. Everything else you say after that, you're just scrambling.
I mean, you know what? We should have a whole other episode about
how shit China is.
China.
Yeah, okay, maybe your title is better than
I
mine.
think, but also I think we need to do a thing where we hide our IP. Before we do that, China's great.
Just make sure not to install TikTok.
Or use any technology that might have something made in China.
Or a Huawei phone, yeah.
Or any components, dude.
Guys, I think that's I think that's probably on that
Bombshell.
Bombshell.
Just a tin face.
I think we should probably wrap it up. Does anyone have any final thoughts?
No, I think
I think that's it.
talked the hell out of it.
Yeah.
ChatGPT, good or bad, Barry?
Like every other human invention, yes. It's definitely one of those things.
Donald, good or bad?
I think it's good and the way forward, and it should be adopted and embraced and understood.
I'm already treating it like a child.
Yeah.
Eh.
Mart?
Mart?
I think it's good, but I'm definitely worried about. I don't think the world is ready for just what's about to happen, and I think there's going to be a lot of weird side effects that's going to happen. And I think the biggest part is going to be, right now, how many % of men marry a pillow? Not a lot, but some do. Now, what % of men are going to marry their ChatGPT girlfriend?
Are they going to marry it on their phone? Are they going to marry it on their laptop? Would the chatbot consider him cheating if he's using his phone and his laptop?
All of them marry, and probably yes.
It'll be on all of them.
But I really think that's a thing. But anyway, overall, yeah, good thing. Although, actually, before we go, there is another bit that I wanted to say, because we talked a lot about ChatGPT. We didn't talk at all about DALL-E. Yeah, because there's a guy who used ChatGPT to write a children's book.
Oh, yeah.
And then he used DALL-E to do the art. Then he just got it all printed and sold it on Amazon. And he's selling a book that he didn't do anything for.
Sure, I think it's Bloomberg or somebody was saying that there's 200 books on Amazon at the moment that you can buy that have been, if not fully made by ChatGPT, is at least partially made by ChatGPT, and not everyone is declaring it,
But that's somewhere where ChatGPT is strong, because it's very. You can't really specifically rely on it if you say, give me a historical fact about Germany between these decades because I want to write an essay, and you paste it into an essay and there you go. Yeah. You don't know that it's historically accurate. Yeah, but if you say, tell me a fantasy novel about, something, it's going to make stuff up, and that's what the fantasy novel is. You can't go wrong. Yeah. And if you could sell that. But you know what's, I guess what worries me a bit, if I was an artist, I would be kind of thinking, fuck, is there even a future for art?
Yeah.
Like, let's say a comic book writer or artist guy. Why would you pay a person who's going to do all the comic books for you? You can just tell a program.
Much lower subscription.
To a program and say, try again, keep going.
You know what we should do? We should talk to Sophie, who is literally selling art and who does actually have an opinion on this.
Yeah.
What's amazing is that I can even do, like, the stuff that DALL-E can do is incredible. Like, they can literally take a photograph. You can put a photograph in it and it'll take something out and put something else in it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And you can even just randomly tell it, give me a photorealistic picture of something random.
Yeah.
And it'll do it as if it's a photograph that is just made up. Now, I know that right now there's loads of examples on the internet of fucked up pictures that have gone out really just wrong and disturbed looking. But this is version 1 of it. Give it another couple of versions. And
again, as Philip DeFranco says, this is the worst it'll ever be.
Yeah. But there's a bunch of artists that are taking a class action suit against, I can't remember, whatever company is running one of these art generative AI things, because
DALL-E's made by OpenAI as well.
Yeah. Is it? Yeah, and it could be that as well. I don't know exactly which one. I think it's not DALL-E, it's one of the other ones, but I can't remember the names. But because ultimately you could say, like, essentially the way it works is I could tell ChatGPT, give me a story that's 1,000 words long, written in the style of Charles Bukowski, and it will. But the only way it knows how to do that is it scraped all of Charles Bukowski's work, and it's going to just kind of emulate it. And equally, you could say, I'm going to say, paint me a picture of something, and you can describe it in the style of Salvador Dali, and it will. And Salvador Dali's dead, so he's not going to be pissed off. But there are active live artists today who are doing art, and these art programs have gone and scraped their work everywhere that it's posted on the internet. So you can say, paint me a picture in the style of that person, but that person was never asked, do you mind if I do this?
Or
So you're basically stealing their work. Even though it's new, it is still based on your work and copying your style, kind of thing. So anyway, there's a bunch of artists that are doing a class action suit against one of these AI generative art things for that reason, and I can definitely see their point. But I also don't know how you could police that. I think they're kind of screwed. I don't know. But anyway, AI and all that, the future is scary.
I love it. I think they're all brilliant.
Especially Alexa, because she's over there.
Yep.
And Siri and Google and all them, they're all over here.
So guys, to our listeners, we are on Spotify and Anchor FM. Now, if you're listening to this, you already know that. But you might be looking at it on YouTube. So like and subscribe pass it on to your friends. If every one person here passes it on to 3 people, then in something like 27 generations of that, literally the whole population of the planet know it.
And that's half the time of a hotel in Japan.
Yeah. So that's it. We will see you next time on Things You Didn't Ask For and Didn't Need to Know.
Hold on.